Thank you. I want to thank you all so much for this opportunity to share this project and hopefully provide some feedback and extra resources as I move forward. So I do label myself as an environmental artist, both because of the materials that I use and the themes that I explore in my art. I'm based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and my work focuses on the vulnerability of nature to humanity. So what I try and do, what my practice is really based on, is a sculptural form that juxtaposes industrial materials, steel, against natural materials that I source by hand in the environment. So tree trunks, leaves, invasive species, really anything that I can get my hands on to help people appreciate in a gallery environment and in a public setting. My work explores themes of claim, of permanence and impermanence, and of labor. And because of that, I was invited up to a very small town in Maine called Pembroke through Smithereen Farms. Let me see if I could squish this down so you could see some images. Smithereen Farm is a farm that is based on promoting organic agriculture and environmental justice issues. And so they're spearheading a campaign right now that has themes that draw together or impact a lot of different towns all across Maine, which have to do with safe water. And the impetus of the fire behind this is a mine that is being reopened. So this mine, that's about 5 miles down the road from the farm itself, had been active in the 1920s, 1930s. And at that time, they extracted about 20,000 core samples. The farm, as part of their strategic plan to invigorate this town, which had been just decimated, town of 800 people right now, by the economy, by changes in the environment. So what they did was they brought out most of the town, all these empty, decaying hotels and homes. They purchased about 15 of them. And in one of them, kind of their home base, all of these cores were stored. So they are the current owners of these core samples. And so that's where I come in. They invited me to do a site visit this summer in August, and I headed up there to check out the core samples, to check out the mine, to check out and talk to the local people. And you can see, let me tell you a little bit about the images you're seeing on the left is their community kitchen. You can see the water. They're located right along Cobscook Bay, which, again, when we talk about a community, this is what drives and helps sustain the locals. So Cobscook Bay is known for some of the highest tidal ranges. Certainly in the region, the tide can drop up to 20 feet. And during that time, that's when the locals go out and they forage, they source clams, they source oysters. This is how, they earn their $200 a week, really. And so you can see kind of that orientation on the left. If I continue my cursor, so the farm itself is right around here, and where they are doing and had done some mining is called Big Hill, and it's just down the road. And all of this is along a river that contains 2 dams, and I'll come back to that. These are some images of the cores that are sourced in the basement of their home. And all of this, of course, is on indigenous land. The land there is inhabited by the Passamaquoddy tribe. It's a vibrant tribe. If you look on Google Maps, it's an artwork in and of itself because it's designated gray. It's gray land. You don't usually see that on Google Maps. And they have, and I've had the opportunity to read through journal after journal of how they use the land and for all intents and purposes, own the land before at the turn of the century. I want to keep moving forward here. Okay, so the heart of this project is my working with core samples. Wolfgang Resources is the mining company that's Canadian-based company, and they have already just about 2 weeks ago restarted drilling in an open pit mine. Okay, so in that same location. They are hungry for content. They were hungry for these core samples. In fact, according to Smithereen Farms, they had to change the locks 3 times. They had people from Wolfgang Resources approaching people on the farm at different times throughout this past year to try and get hold of these samples. Why? Because it's all about flipping the land for money. This is about stakeholders. It's about stakeholders in the land or stakeholders in stocks. Because what the core samples show is, you all know much better than I do, is what's in the land, what's there. And so they believe it's, quote, the largest polymetallic sulfide mine in the US, meaning that it's a hub for sulfur. Well, I'm sorry, not sulfur, for silver. So they believe, like many parts of Maine, there's a lot of silver in there, some gold. They believe there's lead, zinc, and some sulfur in there. So that's in part why they're hungry to do this exploratory drilling. As I mentioned, it was a surface mine, mostly for lead, back in the 1920s, and then in the 1980s, it reopened for a few years. Part of the drive for the Clean Water Campaign is that even with Maine's new laws for mining, it would mean extraction of the waste from that process wouldn't be able to be dumped right there, right into the to the open pit, but would be pumped out. The problem with it being pumped out of that immediate area is that it's the heart of the aquifer. So it's all sitting on this beautiful natural resource. And so again, the locals and certainly this farm are terrified of contamination and acidification of soil. All right, so how am I approaching this? I am approaching this in the most multidisciplinary way that I can imagine. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to do some drawings and that sort of thing. But what I started to do is try and look at this from up above first, from a mapping perspective. And I worked with somebody to try and help teach me how to use NASA Landsat satellite data along with Google Earth Engine to just start and see how that land has changed over time. And you can see even just in the past 20 years, a difference, a drop in the water levels. The maps itself can be an art, and I do hope to include them in as part of the exhibit or whatever the end product of this project will be. And if any of you have suggestions or thoughts on that, I'm certainly open to them. I am building towards or gathering all this information for what I'm hoping to be a traveling exhibition. Right now I'm slated to do a show in Washington, D.C. at the end of this coming year, and then also at the University of Southern Maine, just that following year. And my hope is, again, to use some of the major issues and highlight them, highlight the culture, highlight the tension between the materials and humanity by showing these core samples. The third part of that, besides the 2 exhibitions, is that I'm going to be working with the farm to do a site-specific installation up there. And that's especially where, Margot, I'd love to chat with you because it basically is delving into landscape design and that sort of thing. So obviously I'm hungry to learn and open to collaboration. I am going to be having a virtual residency through USI in December to just be able to focus on this, at least for a week, to be able to have meetings and really try and dig into the data, dig into the research and do this justice. So where am I at now? I am working with the samples. I'm doing material exploration. And if you have a chance to follow my Instagram feed, I've been posting some of the things that I've started, some of the issues and some of the things that I've started doing with the core samples. And I've started talking with members of the Passamaquoddy tribe. It's incredibly important to me to honor the sacredness and as you all can appreciate the natural resource here, that this is what drives it all. This is what drives the conference, right? In terms of the symposium, in terms of what brings us all together and literally what we stand on. So I'm looking to integrate some traditions and integrate the local culture into whatever I create. And so I'm starting to make some drawings for it. I'm starting to build and that sort of thing. But most of all, I'm open to learning and open to your thoughts. It's an incredible project, and I am driven every morning to keep moving it forward. As a little side note, I mentioned that map earlier. I showed you that map. The heart of the town is this little triangle, and the triangle is where I envision, or where the plan is for me to have the site-specific installation. But it's also adjacent to what used to be Pembroke, or the town's ironworks, which closed mid-1900s, and it was ugly. So I was hiking around there, and I kept tripping over these huge clumps of slag. And the slag, if you've seen it, and it sounds like Rafi, you've seen a lot of slag, is so tactile, so filled with texture. And so as kind of a side offshoot of this project, I am doing some material exploration with it. I am trying to transform it into a possible revenue stream for the Passamaquoddy tribe, in terms of working with them to help teach them how to maybe use or work with them to, transform the material. So you could see a little example of that with some candlesticks. So that's where I'm at right now. I've just started. I'm incredibly excited to learn from you. If you have other resources that you could recommend that I contact. Obviously, this brings together history, it brings together science, brings together culture. And I'm here as an artist to try and pull it all together. So thank you so much for your time.